Hey, what's up, stock compounders? Brad here. So finally, Phil Town released the Q4 quarter four holdings for Rule 1 Fund. Okay, this just came out today, February 25th. And this is the file that came through at the SEC. It is a mess, guys. It's the same one I had to kind of parse apart for the last quarterly filing. So it's kind of a pain, but I went through it. I pulled out all of the stock holdings. I also wrote down the option holdings. I haven't fully incorporated those into my spreadsheet yet. Let me know in the comments if you guys want me to go through kind of the full picture of Phil Town's options holdings. Personally, I'm more interested in the direct stock holdings. So that's really what we're going to cover in the video today. So anyway, I will link to this filing in the description, but let's jump into this spreadsheet. So I've been using this spreadsheet since Q1 of 2020. You can see in column B, that's how many shares of each of these companies Phil Town owned at the end of the first quarter 2020. And I've gone through each subsequent quarter and listed how many shares were owned in the Rule 1 Fund. So we can kind of see over time what's happened there. So as of the latest quarter, quarter four, this is what he held December 31st, 2020. Okay. So we can see the changes in the positions here. Bank OZK from the third quarter to the fourth quarter, Phil Town sold off 18% of Bank OZK. All right. And then you can just go down the line here. Added some CF Industries. They make nitrogen fertilizer. They're the low-cost producer of nitrogen fertilizer. Boeing, big up on Boeing, almost a 3x in terms of the amount of shares owned for Boeing. Bought a new position, right? Huntington Ingalls Industries. That is a new position in the Rule 1 Fund. So we'll get into that a little bit. A lot of these, a lot of his positions had no change. You can see down here, he sold out of Seritage Growth Properties in the fourth quarter. Phil Town's Rule 1 Fund no longer in Seritage. Now, Phil mentioned, I think in one of these Facebook Lives that he does, he sold off Seritage in one of his funds, which I guess was this one, but he held on in a different fund. So he's not, completely bearish on Seritage, but we can see here he no longer owns any of it in this fund. So what I did here, I went through and I got the price today as of 225. Because my objective was to determine kind of my best estimate of what the value of each of these positions is. Now, of course, we don't know as of February 25th how many shares he owns in each of these. So I'm making an assumption to try to get, the best estimate that I can, that he still owns the number of shares that he owned on December 31st, and then just multiplying it by the price today to get the value, okay, the estimated value of each of these positions in his portfolio. So that's what I did in this column. And then I added everything up to kind of get the, my best estimate for the total value of the portfolio. All of these equity positions, the cash. This doesn't include the options, okay? The options tend to be a small fraction of everything else. So, and then I was able to calculate the allocation, right? So this is simply the value of the position divided by the sum of all the position values plus the cash. So in this case, we have 17.5 million divided by 119 million to give us this 14.7% allocation. And this is really just an indication of, how bullish, Phil Town is on each of these companies. Now, of course, you can't just say, okay, he's most bullish on Bank OZK, so we should go out and buy Bank OZK. we need to consider at what price Phil Town is bullish on these companies, okay? Certainly he bought below 42 for a large majority of his stake in Bank OZK. So you have to keep that in mind. The next column here. Now, I only did this for the top 4 positions, okay? Because those are the ones where there was movement, right? There was activity in the fourth quarter. What this is Value Investors Club, okay? Value Investors Club is this site here where great investors submit investment ideas, all right? So they basically write a thesis on a company. They submit it here. If it's a great write-up, it gets kind of included in kind of, what investors can see who are on Value Investors Club. So I find it's a great resource to kind of go deep into a company to figure out, okay, what is the investment case for this? So Bank OZK hasn't had a recent write-up. I think the last write-up was in like 2017, okay? So I didn't include that there. CF Industries and Boeing have a write-up from last year, okay, in the kind of the summer of last year. So we might take a peek at those in this video. Huntington Ingalls, I can find very little information about Huntington Ingalls out there in terms of, write-ups. I'm sure there are some fund managers who own this company who have, done a write-up in their letter to investors. So if you guys have any write-ups for Huntington, please let me know in the comments because I'd like to learn more about this company. And then finally, the last column, sold put strikes, okay? I mentioned at the beginning, I didn't really include much around Rule 1 options in this video here, in this spreadsheet. But I did include this. And what this is, at the end of quarter 4, Phil Town had a number of, options that he had sold, right? So he's selling these put options. Which basically means he's selling insurance to people who own the stock of those companies. And what the insurance does, if the price drops below this strike price before the expiration of the option, that buyer, right? No, that seller of the put option has the right to kind of offload those shares to Phil Town at this strike price. So what that indicates to us is that, Phil Town is bullish on these companies below these prices, okay? It kind of gives us a sense of what his target buy price is for these companies. Of course, he's collecting a premium when he's selling these put options. So, say he's making $2 per contract on, CF Industries. If he has to buy them back at $35 per share, he's really only outlaying $33 per share. So, it's not a hard and fast, this is his buy price, but it's, close to these prices. It's a good indication of where he's probably willing to buy. So I just included a handful of these for reference. Okay, so let's get into, we're not going to talk about Bank OZK because, Phil trimmed that a little bit. I've actually tried to value OZK in the past. And as a bank, it's something I don't really know how to value, okay? They do a lot of commercial lending, commercial loans. And I don't know how to kind of evaluate those as an investment. So we're going to skip this one, CF Industries. Let's take a quick peek at CF Industries. CF Industries. So here is that June write-up. A U.S.-based nitrogen commodity producer with a cost advantage that has historically allowed it to generate free cash through all points of the cycle. Okay, so this gives you a sense for, what this investor thinks the company might be worth. Now this, keep in mind, this was written up when the price was $30 per share. Okay. So you guys can read through this if you're interested in CF Industries. From this entry price, suggests a 70% upside. Okay, so the stock was at 30. This investor was thinking, all right, we've got a potential 70% upside here. Well, it's already gone up more than 50% from that $30 per share last June. So, you know, it's hard to get too bullish about CF Industries at the current price. Clearly, Phil Town thinks it might be worth looking at below 35. So that's a frame of reference for you. Next one, Boeing, the Boeing company. Let's take a look at that. So this right up here, this is really an investment thesis for the unsecured bonds. Okay, this is not a write-up for the equity. So not quite what we're looking for, but you know, again, if you're considering investing in Boeing, there's going to be a lot of great information in here to help you kind of flesh out your investment thesis. So. Because, you know, at the end of the day, bondholders of Boeing, you know, they have an ownership stake in the business, right? They have a claim on the business, just like equity holders. They're just more senior in the stack there. So take a look at that if you're interested in Boeing. 165 is the strike price for those put options that Phil Town sold. Right now we're at $216. So you know, we're a ways above that. But you can see Phil Town really loaded up in the fourth quarter on Boeing. Now, I imagine a fair bit of that was from selling put options, okay, where he was put the stock rather than buying the stock in the open market. So, you know, that may be useful for you to kind of understand that aspect if you want to go into Boeing. The next one, Huntington Ingalls. Okay, let's take a quick peek at what they do. And we're going to look in ticker terminal at Huntington Ingalls. So Huntington Ingalls Industries engages in designing, building, overhauling, and repairing military ships in the United States. Wow, how's that for a niche? I believe some of these ships are nuclear-powered ships, such as aircraft carriers and submarines. So it's a pretty interesting business. Now, you know I've had a viewer in the past who was, you know, in the military, and seeing that this was on Phil Town's radar got him excited about the company. I don't have any particular expertise in terms of the military. I don't have much interest in it either, so I'm not going to be digging deeper into this one. But, you know, considering it was a new buy in the fourth quarter for Phil Town, it could very well be worth looking into if you guys have any expertise in military ships. Could be a very interesting company to look into. And again, I know Phil Town had options on HII as of the third quarter of 2020. So I don't know whether, you know, he bought these shares on the open market or whether they were put to him again through those put options. And you can see his, you know, the put options that he sold had a strike of 155. So could be a bullish price to get into from Phil Town's perspective. What else do we want to look at? Armada Hoffler, you know, didn't add anything there, but we've got some put options that he sold in the fourth quarter at $10. Currently, it's at $13. I know a lot of you have asked me to dig into Armada Hoffler. I haven't yet. Yeah, I don't know how interested I am in Armada Hoffler. I already own Seritage Growth Properties. I have a very concentrated portfolio, so I don't know how much exposure I want to real estate in my portfolio. I think I may be set for that at the moment. And then we've got gold, GLD, which is a gold ETF. No change there. I believe the price has gone down a bit since the third quarter of 2020. And, you know, Phil Town in his podcast has been talking a lot about, you know, gold as a hedge against inflation, you know, considering how much money we're printing here in the U.S., the possibility that the U.S. dollar goes off, kind of falls from being the global reserve currency. Gold, you know, could be an interesting hedge against all of that. But, you know, Phil didn't increase his position in the fourth quarter with respect to gold. Sturm, Ruger and Company. One thing about Sturm, Ruger and Company, I actually added it to my Magic Formula portfolio at the end of December, okay? Because guess what? It showed up in the Magic Formula in the top 30 with the minimum market cap of 50 million, okay? So Sturm Ruger, which is down here, RGR, is a top 30 Magic Formula screening pick, okay? So I thought that was notable. I don't think it was a top 30 when I bought it at the end of December. I think it was like a top 50 or something like that. But, you know, it's rising in the ranks in the Magic Formula. So thought that was interesting. Berkshire Hathaway, lots and lots of guru investors, super investors loading up on Berkshire Hathaway right now. Phil Town hasn't changed his position on that. SRG. So, you guys, this is the one that really caught my eye. I own SRG. I only own two companies in common with Phil Town. SRG was kind of a bigger position. It still is. And then Sturm Ruger was a small kind of Magic Formula pick. So, what Phil Town mentioned about SRG in one of his Facebook Live sessions is, you know, once the CEO left, that really kind of got him nervous about, you know, how SRG was going to unlock value from all of these kind of premier real estate assets that they have. Really just kind of increased the uncertainty around the investment thesis for Phil Town. So he got out in the fourth quarter, like I said, in this fund. I'm curious how he's feeling about that. I think he got out around $15 per share. Currently the price is $21 per share. So it'd be interesting to hear his take on that. A little surprising to see him get out of that. Because just, you know, a handful of months ago, he was very bullish. He seemed very bullish on Seritage Growth Properties. He thought, you know, this is going to be a 10x over the next 10 years. So, yeah, for what that's worth. Now, cash, $40 million Phil Town has in cash. That's cash and cash equivalents. And it's also, he owns a short-term investment vehicle, which is kind of a, you know, cash equivalent, GOIXX, like a money market fund. So, you know, combining those two, 40 million in cash, which is, you know, about a third of the portfolio. So, you know, you've got about a third of the portfolio in his biggest three stocks, a third of the portfolio in cash, and then, you know, in the other 8 positions, you've got the last third of the portfolio. So anyway, guys, this is an update from quarter 4 on Phil Town. I am really hoping in future filings he gives us that really nicely formatted one that he gave us a couple quarters ago. This is just brutal. I mean, it's not terrible. It probably took me a half hour to go through and, you know, pull everything out onto the spreadsheet. So, you know, it's not as bad as I'm saying it is. Anything else I want to share? Let's see. Yeah, like I said, if you want me to try to go through some of the options positions, there were a lot in the fourth quarter. Probably 3 times as many options positions as there were kind of straight up common stock positions. So hit me up if you want to see those, guys. And with that, I will leave you till the next video. Take care.